Calaroga Shark Media.
I hope Adam Sandler had a great birthday. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Adam Sandler kicked off his comedy tour and brought out Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice came out and did Ice Ice Baby. There's footage. I shared it in the Facebook group. Please feel encouraged to join us in the group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. The clip is a wonderful mix of fun and train wreck. Also at the show, Kevin James, who makes Adam Sandler look like George Carlin. Sandler and Vanilla Ice also played some pickup basketball with the USF Bulls. Coach Hodgson posted on social media, shout out to Sandler and Ice for stopping by the MUMA Center to run some pickup with the Bulls. Big time vibes only in Tampa Bay's Home for Hoops. Nate Bargatze hosting the Emmys on Sunday. A lot of Nate press out there. He did a long interview with CBS Sunday Morning. Nate discussed the days back when he would play for free at small clubs and said, I would never trade it. I would never go back. You just didn't know better. There's nothing better than when you don't know that there's better. He had moved to New York, and then in 2014, he moved back to Nashville. And he said, you know what? I always thought it was the first thing I didn't do that was for me. I wanted my daughter to grow up in a normal situation, as normal as it can be. And was like, all right, let's move back. I'm going to move back. I just didn't tell anybody. Good follow-up from CBS. Were you worried there was going to be an impression like, well, he moved back to Nashville. He's given up comedy? Nate said, that's why I didn't tell anybody, because they'd think I would quit. And I was so scared of that, so I didn't say anything. Filming has wrapped on The Breadwinner. Nate says his character is a bumbling dad, not too dissimilar from his real-life personality. He explains, we eased into it. I ain't crying in this movie, I can tell you that. In the movie, I have 3 daughters, and, I have 1 daughter. He started talking about the theme park. I've shared my opinions on that in the past, but Nate said, I'm not going to be able to go to every city in America for the rest of my life, so I want to build a place where you can come, and if you and your wife and kids are 11 and they want to go run off on their own for a second, I want that to happen. I'm doing this tour. I plan on doing one more tour after that. I need to go do movies, and I need to build that world up and learn how to do all that stuff, so I'm going to dive into that aspect of it. I can see myself being and making movies for like another 15 years. If I'm allowed to, it might all fall apart. Nate likes playing golf. It's kind of like stand-up. You're kind of out there on your own. Golf, you're so much thinking about what you're doing out there. I realized I can't turn my brain off. I just need to direct it to something else. He hosts the Emmys on Sunday. Right before that, he's doing back-to-back arena shows in Denver and says, I kind of know how to operate in this chaos, and if you pulled me out and gave me a month off, I think I'd be lost right now. Let's keep going. We're in a good groove. You kind of don't want to stop the groove. Yeah, keep touring. Keep doing stand-up. I'm telling you, I'm going to be on in this podcast in like 10 years, still from the basement while you have your millions, but I will be in the basement going, remember that time Nate Bargatze thought he was going to open a theme park? I'm 100% eventually going to do that story. Patton Oswalt has a Substack, and I thought this was really interesting. He's got an upcoming show at the Horseshoe Casino, and he writes, the venue holds 2,612 people, and as this moment I've sold, wait for it, 202 tickets, 202, in a room that size. But Patton writes, but now comes my conundrum. I kind of want that to be the size of the audience. Yeah, he doesn't want this show to sell more tickets. He explains, 202 people in a room that seats 2,000 plus is strangely appealing to me. There's a real cinematic honesty to zeroing in on 200 people in a vast, mostly empty venue. If the Horseshoe holds at a low audience count, I know that show will be something unique. Unlike the shows I'll do in Milwaukee and Flint, it'll become this event that I and those 200 people will probably think about amidst all life's other work and entertainment that melts in this huge gray slurry of memory. That one will pop, good or bad, and now I'm obsessed with it. It hasn't even happened, and I can't stop envisioning it in my mind. It's a bleak, hopeful, early 70s movie about perseverance and grace in the autumn landscape near Layton, Michigan. It's the kind of Netflix special Terrence Malick would have filmed. If you're one of the 202 people who are holding tickets to the show, I truly can't wait to see you. We're going to make sad existential magic that night. That's awesome. Everybody's mad at Bill Maher. Nothing new there. He weighed in on the late night stuff. It is Bill Maher's opinion that Colbert, Stewart, Oliver, and Kimmel very predictably parrot whatever MSNBC was saying. I'm not knocking them. The audience, and of course half the country was like, well, this is just insulting to me. Leno never did that. Leno just played it down the middle. He was like, I'll make fun of everybody. And in a different sort of way, what I'm doing, I just don't stop criticizing just because you're on the left part. If you do something stupid, I'm going to call you out no matter who you are. Bill Maher also talked about a famous politician and said a crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives there, which I know is effed up. It's just not as effed up as I thought it was. Wonder if Bill Maher has any thoughts about any recent drawings. Anyway, moving on. In New York City, there was a Stephen Colbert lookalike contest. It was sponsored by Political Action Committee Move On, It was both an anniversary celebration. There was weird semantics. Colbert's camp was calling it the 10th anniversary of The Late Show, which I guess is technically accurate because David Letterman hosted Late Show with David Letterman, no THE at the beginning there, and then Colbert renamed the thing. So I guess it was the 10th anniversary of The Late Show, but what you really meant, it was the 10th anniversary of Colbert hosting the thing. Does it matter? No. Just how my brain thinks. Anyway, the lookalike contest was both an anniversary celebration and a protest of what they call the suspicious timing of the show's cancellation. Justin Krebs is the leader of special projects at Move On, and he said, when Stephen Colbert called out the BS of CBS's capitulation to Trump, our members around the country were excited, relieved, and inspired, because since the beginning of his administration, we've been looking for entities that won't capitulate to Trump, and then days later the show gets canceled. Whatever CBS says, there's too much of a connection there. Late Nighter tells us a bunch of would-be Colberts turned up chasing their dream of a free slice of pizza and a $250 gift card. The judges stressed that the contest was less about looks than essence and vibe. The grand prize went to Nancy, who's pitched that Colbert run for president in 2028, something Johnny Mac has floated on this exact program. Won over the judges and secured her the trophy and the gift card. After the contest, the crowd marched the 2 blocks to the Ed Sullivan Theater. They started chanting, "We're calling BS on CBS." Love it. A banner called CBS the Capitulation Broadcast Station. The day ended with cupcakes and a birthday cake in honor of Colbert's 10th anniversary as host of The Late Show. Speaking of Colbert, he'll be one of the presenters at the Emmys this week. That should definitely be interesting television. Johnny Mac's going to have to work late Sunday night. I can't hand in one of those pre-taped Mondays where I blow off the Emmys and Nate hosting it and Colbert showing up and Colbert maybe winning an Emmy. So Johnny Mac's going to be watching both the Emmys and Sunday Night Football on the split screen and then doing some recording probably around 10:30 p.m., which does mean anytime I record that late, usually when it's like the Emmys or the Oscars or something like that. So on a normal day, I record kind of midday and schedule the podcast for 3 a.m. But when it's like already 11 p.m. and then I just put it out. So you might get an episode very late Sunday night, but it'll be there in the feed Monday morning regardless. Anyway, some of the presenters, Stephen Colbert, Sydney Sweeney, she's been in the news. Let's see, who else would we find interesting for this program? Tina Fey, Leanne Morgan, and for some reason, Jeff Probst from Survivor. Okay. The Emmys, Sunday, 8 p.m. East, 5 West. Earthquake is going to tape his second special for Netflix. This will be out September 30th. It is titled Joke-Telling Business, described as a no-holds-bar hour of unfiltered comedy that cements him as one of the sharpest and most relatable voices in stand-up. We also learn Earthquake is developing a scripted comedy series that he's producing with Bill Burr. Very interesting. The not-so-canceled Aziz Ansari in the news again. Entertainment Weekly caught up with him. You may recall back in 2018, there was a sexual misconduct allegation about Aziz Ansari. That's not what we're talking about today. You may also recall he's about to play the Riyadh Comedy Festival, but that's not what we're talking about today. The not-so-canceled Aziz Ansari told Entertainment Weekly he's eager to spend time together with the Parks and Rec cast as long as he gets a decent enough check. He'd be down for a reboot. He doesn't even need to see a script. He said, I'd love to spend time with anybody from Parks, even if the show was terrible and we just got a decent enough check. We got to spend time together. You know, I have a certain Dennis Leary song stuck in my head. Be right back. This Sunday, not just the Emmys, there is a fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Hospital. It's the Comedians Cross Up Cancer fundraiser. Comedians Sammy Anzer and Mike Hawkburns have partnered with the Basketball Social House to present Comedians Cross Up Cancer fundraiser. They will raise money for St. Jude's. Sunday, September 14th at the Basketball Social House in Centennial, Colorado. Watch stand-up comics with no skills hit the court for chaos, laughs, and charity. You should see if Sandler's in town. He'll come. Because technically, this press release does not say watch stand-up comics with no basketball skills. It says watch stand-up comics with no skills. And Adam Sandler is a comic with no skill. Well, he's a good dramatic actor, but comedy, he's just terrible. And I think he's actually decent at basketball. I digress. Watch stand-up comics with no basketball skills hit the court for chaos, laughs, and charity, complete with live roast commentary, hijinks, prizes, and a halftime dance. Last year's event raised $1,000 for the St. Jude Children's Hospital. There'll be a bunch of comedians there. This sounds really cool. Go to Eventbrite and search for Stand-Up Guys, and that'll take you there. That sounds like a lot of fun. Leanne Morgan is getting a second season of her TV show. She put out a statement, "We're coming back for a second season." I'm so grateful to all the writers, producers, Netflix, Warner Brothers, our amazing cast, and especially for all the fans of the show. Y'all did this for us, and we can't wait to be back. I yelled upstairs to my wife. I'm like, "Hey, Leanne Morgan's show, they brought it back." She said, "It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. And I'd rather watch her clips." Interesting take from Mrs. Daily Comedy News there. But I'll tell you, Mrs. DCN knows her TV. And I say that because of this next story. She will often take the dog to the dog park. And she one day said to me, this would be a good show. Well, apparently, the Australian ABC overheard her conversation. They have started filming in Melbourne for a 6-part comedy series called, wait for it, Dog Park. Yeah. In Dog Park, we meet Roland, who's grappling with a midlife crisis. He encounters the ever-optimistic Samantha and her quirky, life-loving circle of dog park regulars. As Roland reluctantly returns to the park, he slowly discovers his need for a community. So it sounds like Community, but Dog Park. I'll watch. Dog Park is a heartwarming tale of love, loyalty, and playful canine antics, celebrating kindness for the joy of it. I'm already wondering, are Roland and Sam going to get together? I bet they do. Tim Robinson getting another show for HBO. It is a comedy called The Chair Company. In The Chair Company, we follow William Roland Trosper, a man whose embarrassing workplace accident results in him unraveling a massive conspiracy. Now, this will start airing Sunday, October 12th at 10 p.m. New episodes every Sunday until November 30th. Out on Netflix, Jordan Jensen's new special, Take Me With You. Honestly, this one caught me a little bit by surprise. I even looked at the Netflix new releases, didn't see it on there, and then I'm prepping the show, and I see the LA Times telling me this thing exists, and they caught up with Jordan Jensen, who told the Times, "I can't see the numbers, so if it tanks, I won't know." I like that. She talked about touring as a young comedian and explained, you do an open mic and someone says you could be on a show and suddenly you think you're hot stuff, and every step of the way you think you're doing really well. So you're driving around being like, I'm on tour, and making weird tour posters. And you're not even looking at people who are on a different level. You're just trying to do the most you can do at your level. So for me, it was the same as it is now. I'm on tour every weekend, and I'll come home and hit the open mics and get my material and go off again. Even though I was losing money on the road, I felt like I was a touring comic. Good question here from the LA Times. As a New York comic, what's your perception of the LA comedy scene right now? I'm very curious of this answer. Jordan Jensen says, the LA scene has less of a fire under its butt, but it has the same amount of good comics, or roughly the same amount because of the population difference. But the difference between doing comedy in LA and doing comedy in New York is if you don't write a new joke in New York every week, everybody knows. Whereas in LA, they can chill more. They have a dog, they have a hike, and there's more to life than comedy. But New York, you have 10 people living with you, and you have to take a train every day, and you're so comedy focused because you're trying to climb out of that life and into the comedy place of LA. So they're just as good, but New York comedy's way more prolific. But in LA, they're just as funny. Like Josh Johnson. I don't think that guy's coming out of LA because we're trying to get to where the LA people are. They're comfortable and have a nice house, and they're going to be okay. But in New York, we've committed our lives to being miserable, so we keep producing. She talked about getting a note from Netflix. Netflix was like, all that stuff that's effed up about your family, put that way sooner in the special. And I ended up not doing that because the way I would do my regular set is to try and ease them into that. Because when you're sitting there as a watcher listening to all the stuff about my dad, you need to be loose. Netflix was like, just put it up top because it's your story. And I decided I'm just going to go how I normally do it because I get that it's my story. But I can imagine turning that stuff off so fast once you hear some of that stuff. So it's just like, no. So I'm trying to get you to understand me and then letting it rip. The first half hour is my story. But it isn't just about being raised by lesbian moms and having the dead dad. I just had to gamble and not do the whole closer first thing first and do a ramp up instead. It's interesting. We've heard some pretty big name comedians, specifically Bert Kreischer comes to mind, who have realized in the age of Netflix they have to move their closer all the way to the front because people have TV ADD, as I call it, and can't really focus for an hour. So we'll see if this works for Jordan Jensen. At some point, I'm going to watch comedy specials again. I still didn't get to Jim Jeffries, and looking ahead to Friday, we've got Cable Guy and Santino. So I'll have one of those nights where I watch stuff, but, we've got college football Saturday, Sunday Night Football and the Emmys, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and my Netflix queue is backing up. Did you watch The Lazarus Project? You got to watch The Lazarus Project. Anyway, that is your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.